Hello, my loves. Okay, day 5 of 31 Days of Hecate, and the topic that many of you have been asking about, and that is her Egyptian origins. This is a longer video, so strap in and get ready. If you don't have as much time, save this for later, okay? Now, let's get into it. Hecate is actually more West Asian because a lot of the history of her that you will find if you trace her back beyond Greece is Turkey, particularly an area called Anatolia, which is, I'm going to show you a picture real quick. Okay, so if you look where I circled, that's Anatolia. That region right there, back in history, that was Anatolia, where a huge concentration of Hecate's viewers, not viewers, her followers, people who worshipped her, that's where it congregated at, was Anatolia, okay? And now what you can see is, do you see that corridor that is connecting, well, it was considered a corridor, or like a path, basically, an entire region that connects Turkey into Greece. That was a massive area of trade back in those days between different cultures, and there was a huge migration as well. That's where they would cross over to go into Greece, Bulgaria, Romania, and up all the way through Europe from there. In fact, one of the biggest temples of Hecate is still found in Turkey in a town called Lagina. I want to say it's called Lagina, Lagina. I may butcher some of these names, to be honest with you, but that's where her biggest temple still is that you can go and visit. Of course, it's the ruins of it, but you can still go and visit. It's on my list. If anybody knows anybody in Turkey and can be my guide, anyway, that's 2026 plans. But so that's where one of her Lagina, it's Lagina, Lagina. That's where one of her biggest temples are. So you can see there, that corridor there back in those times is where people went through a lot. Now, technically, Turkey is part of West Asia, as I said. So you can actually even consider Hecate in originating as an Asian goddess. You know, migration did that. So that's where in Turkey, you can find a lot more information about her origins, but let's go even deeper into Egypt, right? Because ancient Egyptians actually inhabited the area of Anatolia for a while, right? So let me show you Anatolia, Turkey, in as far as where it is within Egypt, okay? Hold on. All right, so you can see here how Egypt also has its own connection that goes up, you cross over and goes up and into Turkey. And then, of course, from Turkey, you can go into Greece. So if you're thinking about migration happening, right? And also as far as how Egypt at certain parts, you know, went into way back in history, went up and through different places, right? And if you're thinking about like ancient Egypt as far as the Egyptian goddesses, there's actually an Egyptian goddess that is closely tied to Hecate. But you can see how even if like the Egyptian goddess, which I'm going to talk about in a second, how her story could have gone up and through and also linked in to magnifying that particular goddess and her impact into Turkey, particularly Anatolia. Now, let us talk about the Egyptian goddess that many people say are very tightly, where Hecate, Greek version Hecate, came from her name, and that is Hecate. Now, the difference between the two, or the major difference, is that Hecate was a frog. Her main symbol was a frog. In fact, any depictions you see of her, she has a frog's head, right? Because frogs were also seen as liminal animals. They were able to be both in the physical world and the underworld. They were able to go between both, right? Which is where, because Hecate is a liminal goddess, where that association came in. And because Hecate is so close to Hecate, and Hecate comes from Heka, which means witch. Sorry, not witch, it means magic. And because Hecate is now known, particularly in Greek mythology, as the goddess of witchcraft. So that's where a lot of scholars believe the origin of the name Hecate even came from, was from an Egyptian goddess named Hecate, and Egypt obviously being in Africa. Now you're not going to see a lot of and Hecate herself was also tied to rebirth, to the underworld, to all of that, right? She was a key factor. She was apparently there when Osiris was reborn. She was a key person that was there. So she is also associated with the exact same things that Hecate is. And that's what I find so fascinating about Hecate, is that the origin of her name stayed very consistent across pantheons. So you may find, like in other Greek goddesses, their Egyptian where they may have originated from, the names are often different. Like when I was researching Athena, because one of her symbols came to me in a dream recently, and her Egyptian counterpart is Neith. It starts with an N, but it's completely different to what Athena is now, right? What she's named now. But Hecate is very, very, her name, as I said, has stayed very similar throughout, which I believe shows the power of her. Not that other goddesses are not powerful, but maybe it's just because I love Hecate. I don't know, but I feel it shows the power of her name, of what she represents, right? Because of course, especially in Egypt, rebirth and making sure your soul remains throughout, you know, whatever, throughout is a huge thing. They are known for some of the biggest rituals for immortality, as in transferring your soul to different beings, but that's a whole different video. So Hecate's name in one form or another has really stayed throughout. And once it got to Anatolia, that's where it really, like, where her power really grew even more, to the point to where when the Anatolian people or Egyptians, when that migration came through and went up through Greece, her power remained. Like, the people didn't let her go. And the power of her and what she represented was already extremely close to other goddesses that were already in the Greek pantheon, particularly Selene, who is known as the goddess of the skies, right? And remember, Hecate she's one of her triplicate representations is that she is the goddess of heaven, earth, and the underworld, right? So she's the goddess of the skies as well. I think that's why in Hecate's role in Greek mythology, she's often the mediator between a lot of them. She's seen as a Titan, right? Which was the Titans already had their power base. And so I think that's why she's seen as such a powerful figure, but she's in it, but she's almost separate from it. Does that make sense? Like she's in the Greek pantheon, but she's almost her separate force in it. And she plays her role of kind of flowing in and out where necessary, like yesterday, day 4, when I was talking about Hecate, the story with Hecate and Persephone. Like she kind of floated in and out. It almost feels like she was like, I don't know, that's the only way I can describe it, is that she's in Greek mythology, as in part of all the chaos and joy and everything that was part of Greek mythology. But also her power is so great that she's almost outside of the chaos. Does that make sense? But that's how I see her, and that's what I find so fascinating when we're looking into her Egyptian origin, is that the most information you will find stops in Turkey, stops in that West Asia area into Anatolia. But if you look a bit deeper as far as the associations to what Egyptian goddess she is closely tied to, it is an Egyptian goddess that almost has her exact name, Hecate. And the Egyptian origin of the name means magic. And Hecate is the goddess of witchcraft, magic, transformation. Hecate, the frog, also rebirth, transformation. It's fascinating. Anyways, thank you for strapping in for this almost 10-minute video. But the Egyptian ties, and her whole history throughout that region into Turkey, into Greece, is really fascinating, and it is a mouthful. So if you liked it, feel free to comment. If you want to know anything else about Hecate, it is 31 days. I'm probably already going to be discussing something you're interested in, but feel free to let me know in the comments. Repost this if you know any other Hecate lovers who want to find out all this information. And I will see y'all tomorrow for day 6. Please remember, I did make earrings as well for Hecate called Hecate's earrings. They're keys. I'm obsessed with them. They're in my TikTok shop. Everything, the earrings themselves are 25% off for the month of December, because month of December is Hecate's month. So for the month of December, it's 25% off. And just let me know. I also have earrings in 3s. So if you're also fascinated by the number 3, I have also made them with just 3 keys instead of the traditional 4. So once again, it's in my TikTok shop. I love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow.